it's this type of genre of writing where the people who know how to do it, who kind of are able to read between the lines, they understand the subtext. It's a very natural kind of performance that they're being called to give, and then they can provide it. And for other students, it's not as obvious. So just to give you one example, when I was a high school teacher, I had a lot of students who came from, immigrants from other countries, where this idea of like, a personal statement, why do you need to have a personal statement? If you need to know how good of a student I am, just look at my GPA, which is like, I think like a lot of countries have that kind of stance, right? And like there are a lot of there's like a whole cottage industry of like tips and help, and it's fantastic and it helps open doors. But universities themselves and the evaluators themselves have been able to be quite coy about what they're actually looking for. When does a personal narrative or struggle that a student overcame, when does that become too much, so much so that it's distracting? And I think like, if there's something that I would hope that can change, regardless of AI or not, I would hope that there's just some way that we can have more transparency in this whole process.
Globally, systems are very different. I mean, in India, you can sit and argue that, getting into an IIT, for example, is close to impossible, but the system is actually transparent. It's like, look, go do this exam called the JEE. If you do well, we will invite you for the JEE Advanced, and the top, whatever, 5,000 are placed. There's a very clear kind of admissions process and outcome at the end. Is it fair? Are the questions hard? Is it equitable? I question all of that, but at least that process is very, very transparent.
Top universities end up being congregations of the smartest on the planet. And my thing is that, if you cherry pick the smartest on the planet, we are going to land where we have landed. The smartest is not the best. I mean, admissions is too important a task to be outsourced to the admissions committee. I think it is the collective pool of the academia, the dons and deans of the university who need to be invested.
No matter how you break down the essays, no matter what kind of stylistic feature, no matter what kind of turn of phrase, no matter how you slice and dice the data, every indicator was pointing to an increase in AI writing style appearing in the data set. And also, just to be clear, this is not data that this is not like, a lab setting. This is like actual administrative data. But we focused a lot on two splits. One was applicants who were lower socioeconomic status versus applicants who were higher socioeconomic status. One. And then two, decisions. So like grant or deny, or accept or deny, excuse me. And one thing we found was that students from lower SES backgrounds were found to use AI, like this AI writing style, more often, more densely than the higher SES applicants. But importantly, they still had a lower probability of acceptance. And that's controlling for test scores, controlling for GPA, controlling for X, Y, and Z.
The University of Michigan just came out with this interesting essay. What they said is it's called this Why Michigan essay. So you have this Why College essay that they ask applicants to write. And this year, they've actually told students, write a prompt, get this essay written on AI, and what you need to do is analyze how good this essay is or not. That is the college admissions essay. So you've got University of Michigan LSA asking you to do that. But at the graduate level, University of Michigan Law School is saying, please don't use AI when you write your college essay. So there is a lot of conflicting messaging coming out of college admissions. And it's going to happen, right? This is new. Admissions committees are trying to navigate this process the same way we are.
The democratization has happened. The availability is there. Are people savvy about it? I'm not sure. So last year, we had about 15,000 registrations. We had about 6,000 applications, and we met 1,600 people. And we did not conduct an interview. So the point is that even interviews, as Namita said, they are getting gamed. They are sort of, rehearsed role plays, articulate, immaculate, running through a theater, almost a theater-like program. Now, we have introduced a video this year, 1-minute video, that has reduced my applications.
We actually found that prompting the AI with the demographic information actually sounded less human than when we didn't include the demographic information, which itself was kind of surprising. So this idea of like, oh, we'll just give it some background information, it'll start to sound like you. Well, compared to students, again, like who are actually like in these, like you fit these demographic profiles, that was not the case. So then we kind of took things one step further and we said like, well, like, if we see that the human essays are clustered over here. We see that the AI essays are clustered over there using, computational tools. So we built a classifier again, just to see like, how well can we predict, a 100% human written piece of text versus a 100% AI piece of text. And, for those parameters, we were actually able to get classification accuracies of like almost 100%. They were almost like perfectly separable. So, we were very confident, like, oh, maybe we've kind of cracked the code or something. So in a totally separate experiment, we had human participants co-write personal statements. So, like basically moving away from this 100% AI to more like, a mix of like, some people use AI a lot, some people used AI a little bit. They actually dropped to like a little over 50%, which was like, it was basically a coin flip. For students who are just using AI 100% and submitting that as their own writing, like it seems to be, at least for the machines, very easily detected. But the second that there's any kind of like human AI co-writing, this human in the loop, AI in the loop, whatever you want to call it, it immediately gets blurry.
It's very rare that a student is going to be like, here are 10 facts about myself. This is the prompt, generate my essay, 650 words. And then, maybe say, I don't like paragraph 2, sentence, change this word, change that. And then that's your essay. And then you submit it. It doesn't usually work like that. I think it depends on what you actually do with that essay, right? Again, it's an idea that is put in front of you. They might have molded something. Are you changing it to make it sound a lot more like you? Are you adding examples that also justify the idea that the AI tool gave you, that you're like, yeah, actually, this is something that I can talk about?
So far as universities are concerned, fighting this generative content, the basic thing that needs a reevaluation is, who do you want? Are you going to have affirmative action? And now to be it, so there are some policy matters there. Who are you getting? Are you going to get people who have a different point of view? Because when I, in my classroom, in my fellowship cohort, when I put an engineer and a philosophy and a literature and a commerce economics graduates, when I put a melting pot of this cohort, there is a new dimension of thinking that emerges. In the 21st century, where we are saying that it has to be integrated, interdisciplinary,
I think it's very difficult to point at one particular error, like this error needs to be fixed or that error needs to be fixed, because this just actually leads to the fundamental question of what is the rubrics and what does the institution want, which is, exactly what Vivek was saying. Whatever system exists, like what I'm saying, this is a little bit more philosophical, but whatever system exists to get into a highly selective university, whether it's in the India, UK, the Ivy League in the US, students and families will find ways to gamify or to kind of do well in that process, right? So I'm actually flipping the question back to you, Nirad, that until the institutions make decisions that are taking into account people who are being missed out or people who would definitely benefit from that type of education, those errors are, any system will have some kind of type A error, type B error, pre-AI, post-AI, any rubric that's set out. It's a very difficult thing to do.
So in one project, I mentioned we had, in this one experiment, we had participants co-write personal statements with an AI. So again, it's this human AI mixture of writing. And as part of that, we actually recruited college admissions officers, and we asked them to like evaluate the essays, the human written versus the human AI co-written. And we also asked them if they could identify which of the essays that we were showing them were co-written with AI. And their accuracy was slightly better than a coin flip. So I think like, my kind of concern in this, like, this quest for accuracy and authenticity is the extent to which people overestimate their ability to detect what is authentic versus what is synthetic. So I would worry about, like, who, in that situation, who is being suspected of using AI versus who is not being suspected, who is able to fly under the radar versus who is, like, their writing becomes much more salient in ways that maybe in the past it wouldn't have been.
One is that a university will require a cognitive smart. That's a baseline. I mean, what on top are you looking for? Unfortunately, the teacher only comprehends the head part. The teacher does not have the tool for assessing the heart and the hand. And that's the composite. I think you need to just, and I'm not saying put a sort of a layer there. I think you need to really reevaluate. Of course, I mean, the GMATs and GREs tell you that this kid fits in the classroom at the academic baseline. But what are you building on top of that? What are you assessing on top of that? Are you looking for elites? Are you looking for networks? I mean, those are keywords that have been, I mean, the networks don't even work anymore. The old social elite networks are defunct today. I mean, the H1B, the California, the Bay Area, the Boston kid, I mean, is not necessarily an elite kid today. I mean, it's coming from the middle classes, coming from the upper middle classes. So I think the reform is possible. I think the gumption for reform, or this, sort of inertia out of the reform, from status quo, is what is needed.
Again, this is a very tough question. I think, again, things are evolving all the time, Nirad. So this is just as of today. I think processes that are a little bit more, maybe transparent can be helpful. And when it comes to these essays, there are other ways to assess students' personal stories, through videos. But then again, there are all these tools that can help you with that too. So you keep thinking of innovative ways to understand more about the student, but then there are hacks for them to make that better as well. So I don't know. This is a tough one. I don't know. Again, sometimes I wonder whether just this, if you're looking for very academically able students, then does the test isn't just going and doing a test not a way to just demonstrate that? And that happens in a lot of places in the world. But then you are missing out on the other, the other types of students. So I'm not sure, Nirath. I mean, this is, I think you can do a whole, like, you can spend your life's research on this.